congratulations, gentlemen, on Summerland. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Oh, there you are, Kurt. I wasn't seeing you before.
I am here now.
So, you know, the biggest question about this is, where did you guys come up with Lankyboy as a name?
I don't even know.
Well, we're both
very
relatively tall and skinny, so it just kind of turned into a good name that described both of us in a quick summary.
So you guys are going to use the term, the name Lankyboy when you two collaborate in the director's chair? Is that what it is going to be from now on?
Yeah, we're basically going to have to keep going with this. No matter where we end up physically, we'll probably always be Lankyboy.
Excellent. Hey, so tell us where the original idea came from for Summerland.
Yeah, so back in 2013, a good friend of mine, Dylan Griffiths, and I were just kind of hanging out and talking about road trip movies and how we both always wanted to make one, and how we'd kind of grown up on these movies like Road Trip, or kind of like even like Fanboys later on. We're like, what if we just wrote one? And I think we were just having a couple drinks, and we came up with kind of the basic premise and wrote like a really bad first draft in about like 6 days, I think. And it just kind of sat on the shelf, and Chris, who was just in here, and I had always thought about doing it for fun. And then years went by. We'd done kind of these horror movies, and I had sent the script over to Noah and a couple other friends, and we kind of all joined up and kind of started this writing room, which I think Noah can attest to, where we were kind of just playing around with the scripts, like ripping apart that first draft, because it had the basic ideas, but it just wasn't a fully fleshed out script. It was not on a very barely functioning level. And all the characters just kind of started to come to life through all these little Skype calls. But yeah, no, you were kind of jumping in. That was like 2016, I think.
Yeah, that was probably like 2016, 2017. It's like we all it was about 6 of us, and we all kind of put our own voice into it and had our own turn at it, and then would like meet up on these group Skype calls and just talk about it, and it kind of became what it is now through that.
So did Chris bring in the gay themes into the storyline, or was that originally in the script?
No, so that was actually one of the funnier parts, is that we'd written this thing. Well, like the whole catfishing aspect of it was in that first draft. The whole premise is all the characters were on like a very like not fleshed out way, but all the characters were the same. The idea of him going on this Christian dating website, pretending to be his best friend's girlfriend, that was all in that first draft. And once we'd written the whole draft, and I sent it to Chris, and he kind of came back to me and was like, Kurt, this is like my life. Like I've done a lot of these things growing up, like kind of coming to terms with my own sexuality, of like how I talked to other guys. I was kind of hiding behind a mirror, and like, and kind of the whole story of kind of his friends and that. And it was through that where he was like, we have to make this movie because of that. It was kind of, but the core ideas were all in that first draft. They were just not the best written.
Where was the direction heading towards? What was it originally? Summerland, a music festival in the original script, or did that name later?
It was Summer. I don't know if the name. I think it was called Summerland in that first draft. Yeah. So the basic ideas, the basic building blocks were all there. It does end up at the music festival. I think it ended on a little bit more. The original draft ended with Stacy, Maddie's character, finding out. Like it was kind of ended on this cliffhanger of where the moment where they see the two of them kissing, that was the end of the original draft. Like we didn't have kind of that whole epilogue of kind of that kind of cathartic moment of them all realizing that they're all kind of going their own separate ways.
Yeah, and one funny antidote with the name. At one point, Kurt, weren't we considering making it? We were trying to figure out the best time to shoot, and we had talked about making it Winterland if it was like going to end up being a winter shoot, and we were looking for festivals that had like a kind of snow aesthetic and that whole look. So at one point, it was potentially going to be Winterland, but we lucked out and were able to shoot it in summertime.
That's terrific. For you two, when was the first time you guys actually collaborated on anything? Because I understand one of you, I think Kurt, you were mostly a director, and Noah, you did a lot of behind the scenes, right?
Yeah,
That-
so
that
I was
collaboration?
when Kurt and I met, I was actually I was in high school.
You're
And
still
then
in
when
high school, yeah.
yeah, and then when we first worked together was maybe my first year out of high school. I might have still been in high school, but so yeah, we first worked together on a music video that was probably like 2015, 2016, and that was the first thing we ever collaborated on. It was just a music video that we did for fun, and it ended up doing really well, and it was a fun project, and like we kind of did it sort of the same as how we shot Summerland. Honestly, it was basically just Kurt and I with cameras like running around shooting stuff. So that general like vibe was created pretty early on in our first thing that we ever did together.
Yeah, but you had come up for In Control. I think, was that before or after? I can't
True.
remember.
No. That was after I graduated. That was the year I graduated. But did we shoot that music video before In Control?
I don't remember, honestly.
I can't remember. Yeah. But yeah, so it was early on in my like career of what has existed.
Yeah. But yeah, Avery. So Noah's brother Avery is a composer who we've worked with on a number of projects, and I had known Avery for a little while, and then met Noah when he was like super young. He was doing these short films in high school that were just like way above anything that a lot of people who were in the film industry were doing, which was really cool to see. So we kind of just started messing. Like we were hanging out a bunch, and then the music video kind of came out of nowhere, and it was just like. It was really fun to work together and collaborate. Like I'd always directed on my own, and so had Noah, and it just kind of clicked. It was kind of really, it was a cool. We brought different things to the page, which was really fun.
So on a project like Summerland here, how does the co-directorship actually worked out between you two?
It was so fluid. I don't.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
we were doing everything.
Yeah. Like. Kind of like on that, we were truly doing everything in terms of like crew stuff. So it was funny just to be splitting like sound and camera, which are like the two essential things in a movie, obviously. So it's like when Kurt was operating camera, I was doing sound, and we were both kind of looking at performances in our own way. So there wasn't really any like toe stepping there. There wasn't really any way for that to be possible. It's like we're kind of the first reactions to the performances, like we're right in front of them, and so it's as easy as just kind of giving notes like right then and there. And then but most of the stuff like camera wise and all that, it's like we prepped a lot in pre-production and really beat out what our shots were going to be, so we knew that way ahead of time, and we were able to have those conversations like way before we start shooting.
I figure Summerland was a challenging project because it's not a one set location. You're actually on the move the whole time. Could you talk about your own road journey to Summerland?
Yeah, the road trip in itself was such an adventure. Like that was definitely the appeal for a lot of us, of just kind of being able to rent this massive RV and just going to live with 5 of your best friends. So that part of was definitely fascinating. Like there were so many locations along the way that we knew we had to get, but we didn't have a plan for how we were going to do it. Like we wanted to shoot in the Space Needle. We wanted to shoot on the Las Vegas Strip. There's all these set pieces that we kind of knew loosely what we were going to do, but it was a lot of kind of showing up on the day and just being like, okay, we got to get these shots. How are we going to do it? And kind of hope for the best. But then other parts of it were a little bit more structured. Like we had the music festival locked in right before we left. So we knew we were going there for 3 days. That was going to be kind of a big section of it where we had permission. We were able to partner with the festival, and they kind of allowed us to be there. But it definitely was very much kind of going with the flow, showing up somewhere, kind of knowing our plan, but then adjusting the plan to kind of the situation where we had kind of landed at.
Wow. What about the production and the filming in the RV itself? I mean, that must have been pretty something else.
Yeah, we made sure to do most of that stuff first. So a lot of that stuff shooting inside the RV we did really early on. That was like honestly before we went on the road trip. We shot all that stuff, and so we would just drive in circles kind of shooting. And thank God we did, because by the end of the road trip, the RV is just like a disaster. And I mean, we've been living in it for like a month at that point. And there was hardly room to move or walk around, but let alone shoot. So how we kind of approached that was like, let's shoot all the interior RV stuff first. That's the very first thing we're going to get off. So we spent like a week just driving in circles around Calgary, shooting in the RV.
I know, Chris. I think Chris told me it was like a two-week trip for you guys. I mean, I'm amazed you guys still get along after that production trip.
Yeah, no, it was fun. I mean, like, you're very close with each other. There's not really a break, so you have, like, it's all the personalities in a room. So it never got really stressful. There was definitely like moments where everyone was like, we need to go hang out kind of alone for a bit, but it definitely would be harder with strangers. Yeah,
you kind of become like a little family in that sense. I mean, like, as you do with any film shoot, this was just like an exaggerated version of that because we're never leaving each other's side. So like by the end of it, we feel like we're siblings or something. Like, you can kind of just like call someone out, or like, you know, everyone's very open with each other, and it's nice. It's a blessing to have that experience with a crew, because then you're very comfortable to give the actors notes or something like that, because it's like you're talking to your family.
Yeah.
Great. You know, one of the best scenes that I think is one of the most beautiful scenes is when you guys did a pit stop at the waterfall. Could you talk about developing that scene? Because I thought that was actually very touching and beautiful that you guys developed there.
Yeah, in the original draft, it was just cause there was no real depth to it, but it kind of became this whole thing where it was this special moment for Stacy's character, where this is where she'd kind of grown up. And so for her to go back there and kind of experience that once again. But it definitely, that was Northern California.
Yeah, that was a pretty crazy thing to shoot, because that was probably the thing we went into the most blind out of everything, because that waterfall was so deep into the woods. We like looked up a bunch of waterfalls and found that one and didn't quite know exactly where it was. So, you know, we had to kind of scout it out once we got there and hope that it would work, and hope you could actually jump into it and it'd be safe and whatnot. So that was definitely the scene that we went into the most blind, but I think it came out the cleanest and it looked so good.
Yeah.
I think it looked beautiful, but the waterfall was kind of freezing, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was glacier water. So it was like water that was coming up from, you know, the Northern Pacific that was freezing cold. And we did it a lot. I mean, we did it maybe like 3 or 4 times. I jumped in as well. We did a version of Chris jumping in where it was like the camera was following him. So I jumped in with him with like an underwater rig, and we did that like 3 or 4 times, but never ended up using it. So I sacrificed my warmth for nothing. Yeah.
I bet it's because I only live like an hour away from Yosemite Falls, so in May you could actually still hear the ice crackling down the waterfalls, and that's because it's still cold.
Oh, it's freezing. It's so misleading because it'll be so hot out. It was like, 80 or 90 out, and we're like, great, like we get to jump into some water, and then you're like, this is too cold. I don't want to be in this.
So the trip actually, you guys ended up in Summerland. Could you talk about trying to develop that scene? Because you shot, from my understanding, 3 days there, right?
Yeah. So Joshua Tree Music Festival, shout out to them. Great festival out in Joshua Tree, obviously. We had been trying to find a festival for quite a long time, and we had tried some other festivals and weren't having much luck. And Joshua Tree kind of came in really as a blessing, because they were so supportive. We were able to kind of work with each other as long as we weren't interacting with too many of the kind of festival goers, and we weren't kind of distracting people. Then they were fine with us going kind of anywhere we wanted, which was like really, really great. Like it definitely was. It was a crazy 3 days, because we had to fit kind of like the whole third act of the film into 3 days, but it was really fun.
Yeah, I don't think that sequence would have come out as convincing and real as it did without them, because they were so supportive and just allowed us to do as much as we wanted. They were truly a blessing in that sense, because you know, we had full access and we're able to do so many different things without, you know, getting bothered by, you know, security or anyone like that. They kind of just let us do our thing and not bothered us. And I mean, we left a low footprint. It was only, you know, 6 of us, so we weren't too bothersome besides me going on stage.
Yeah. The only thing,
but besides
we
that,
definitely pushed our luck there. We were
they
didn't want us
that
to stay on
scene.
stage, but we were able to. We got Noah on stage in character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were giving us so much slack that we maybe pushed the boundaries with that. How that ended up happening was we always had the concept that I would do it. It wasn't a major plot point because we were like, okay, we don't know for sure if we're ever going to be able to do this, but if the opportunity ever comes, let's go for it. And so I think we had kind of a free couple hours, and Chris was like, let's go for it. So he started talking to the stage hands and he said like, hey, once this band is done, can we just go up on the stage and use the mic for a second? And for some reason they were like, okay, yeah, sure, which is so surprising. And so Chris managed to get the I guess there was like some sort of aux cord or something that he plugged his phone into and played the song. And I sung a song on the stage, and we got away with that and were able to put that moment in the movie.
Yeah. And they were kind of mad about it at first, but then they came and talked to you after.
Yeah, at the last day of the festival, the festival, the guy who runs the festival was like, hey, by the way, like your song was really good. You should come back and do a full set next year.
So it kind of
so
turned
crazy.
around.
Yeah. He was like a parent that was like just supposed to be mad in that situation, but he didn't really care. He was like, it's fine.
So the crowd had no idea that you weren't part of the act, or this was being filmed.
No, they did. So Chris went on the stage, and to keep their attention, he was like, hey, we're shooting a movie, and like we have this ending moment where this guy's gonna come on the stage and like sing a song. Everyone just stay here and listen to this guy's song. And so everyone was just like waiting there for a second, and I just ran up on the stage and started singing like I, you know, belonged there.
Wow, I'm impressed, Noah. How does it feel to play in front of a huge crowd?
It was terrifying. I have kind of blocked it out of my memory. Honestly, I feel like as soon as I got off the stage, I was like, that didn't feel real at all. And it's like I kind of honestly can't remember it. I was like, you know, just like blacked out. So nervous.
That is terrific. And another memorable scene out of the film is when Rory was driving the RV and the drug dealer was driving in another vehicle right beside it. Could you guys tell us how you pulled that one off?
Yeah, so we did do quite a bit of prep. We had a road lockdown for that scene because obviously you don't want to mess around with large vehicles. But that was a lot of just kind of trying to figure out how to get up to 3 vehicles driving at the same time on the road, because you're dealing with kind of a camera and trying to film from one side and the other side, but having the cars line up so the shot is kind of made for where the cars are, because it's not about where you're putting the camera, it's how you're positioning the cars. So it was a little bit of a kind of figuring it out as we went, but knowing, kind of having a plan of how we were going to kind of cover it.
Yeah, that was maybe our most planned in terms of coverage. Like we really, you know, dialed in what shots we were going to get. And it actually ended up being our fastest day. I think we wrapped the quickest that day, which is funny because it was definitely the most complicated day. But I think just because we compensated and really dialed it in, we were able to finish it pretty quickly. We actually have a breakdown video that will be coming out soon on how we did that entire shoot, like a behind the scenes of that whole shoot. So you can watch that soon.
Well, I thought it was very dangerous, so.
A little bit. It looks more dangerous than it probably was, but there's always a risk when you have a bunch of vehicles driving on a road, especially with young actors. But Dion, who had never acted in film before, who plays the drug dealer, we had filmed with him. He was just a friend of ours, and we're like, you would be perfect for this role. And he came on and just kind of nailed it. We were just like honestly surprised with how good he was. And then kind of when we were at Joshua Tree, actually, we were kind of thinking about the sequence of when they're kind of stranded and going to the festival, and they're trying to figure out how to get there, and they get picked up by Noah's character. And we're like, what if we brought Dion back? And ended up like just last minute booking him a flight like 3 days before we shot that scene. So the whole idea that Dion comes back in the story later on was totally a fluke based on the fact that we just loved how much he nailed that character.
Yeah, I think that was magical. That was a terrific bringing him back towards the third half of the film. I think that was great.
Was not planned at all. That was a last minute, like, why don't we bring him back? Let's just fly him in.
It's funny, yeah. It was so last minute, but now it just feels so necessary to the movie. It's like it needed to be there. It truly did.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your cast. First of all, Chris, you guys been working with Chris for a very long time, because he's mostly behind the scenes, but now he's in front of the camera. Tell us why he was perfect.
Yeah, so he was actually in my very first movie. When I was like 18, 19, we had done a feature film that he was the, I think, third billed lead on. And that's how me and Chris actually initially kind of met. We had been both crewing as teenagers on kind of these indie films, and we had kind of met, and then he auditioned, and we became good friends out of that film. And then he never really acted again. We produced a bunch of horror movies together. And he was my producer on the film that Noah worked on, INCONTROL, but he had kind of not acted. And when I wrote that first draft, I had thought of him in mind as the lead actor, because it was just this project that I wanted to do with my friends. Back then, it was like, oh, well, Chris will act this, and then these other friends will act in these roles. And so he'd always just been the lead actor. Like, we'd never really thought of anyone else playing that role, because it was just written for him as this kind of fun passion project. But yeah, we've been working together for, what is it, almost 10 years.
Wow. Now, Mandy herself, coincidentally, her career just like shot off because of her Netflix show. So you guys must be really fortunate.
Yeah.
on this timing. Talk about her bringing her on for a movie like this.
Yeah, so she was a friend of Rory's, actually. She had done a movie with him called Considering Love and Other Magic, and they had premiered the film at, I think it was Calgary Film Festival, and Maddie and Rory were both there, and Rory introduced us to Maddie, and me and Chris kind of both looked at each other and were like, "That's Stacy. Like, that's the role." Like, as soon as we met her, like, that's like, she embodies that character so much in so many ways. And Maddie's just so talented. It was kind of inevitable that she was going to find success. It's like when we were watching her act, we were just like, she's just incredible. Like, the way she can kind of control her emotions, and some of the more emotional scenes, me and Noah were just like, wow, like it kind of affects you. Yeah,
she truly killed it.
Yeah, I'm used to her show, so I'm used to her being funny the whole time. So
yeah,
so this was something entirely different.
Yeah, that
was great for her. And finally, Rory, I didn't figure that you guys originally wrote a British character into the film. So talk about bringing Rory into this project.
So Rory and I had met. We again met through a film festival years and years ago. And he was actually one of the leads in INCONTROL as well, the movie that Noah helped out on and Chris produced. And we just became really good friends. Rory's just like this really genuine person who I'd love to do every movie with. And the more we thought, it wasn't written as a British character, but he kind of definitely brought that aspect of the character to the role. Once we started thinking, oh, Rory could definitely play Oliver. It only makes sense. So you started to kind of craft his character with the backstory of the visa expiring, kind of around the fact that Rory is British.
Yeah, I think everything worked out wonderfully. Even though I personally would have liked Rory and Mandy still, kind of like have that happy ending, but
life's messy, right? So that was kind of the idea.
Hey, so as I wrap things up, I know it's crazy times, as I told Chris, it's hard for me to watch a road trip movie because I'm stuck in my house, and I would love to go on a road trip myself. But how are you guys staying creative and staying sane during times like this?
You go for it.
Most of the time, I mean, right now it's like I'm kind of revisiting old little projects that I've thought about for a long time in terms of writing and just like things that I've shot that I haven't edited. So it's like, it's kind of fun, and it's like a weird, well, as a whole, this time isn't fun, but it's a blessing and a curse in that it is a nice time to reflect and look back on things and, you know, think about where and what to do next. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of writing over the past few months has been good, just to kind of get back into that. We're jumping into another movie in I think 2 weeks now, so we've been learning all the COVID kind of health regulations, but it's been an interesting time. Yeah, it's been good to just kind of like sit back and look at everything from a perspective where you can't do anything, and just you kind of look back at everything that's happened and kind of what you want in the future. And I think it's been really healthy, actually.
And one more thing, I think you guys have 2 horror movies out this year, Spiral.
Yeah, so I just directed a movie, Spiral, that just came out today. It's on Shudder.
No, I just saw it this morning.
Oh yeah, no way. Yeah, so that's
I just saw it this morning. I was going, where did that ending?
Where did that name? Very, very different movies. Yeah. So
not spoiling here, but yeah.
So Spiral just came out today on Shudder, and we have Z that came out. It's also on Shudder. Came out a little while ago.
And I also saw that's the one with the imaginary friend.
Yep. Yeah. So I'm actually at Brandon's house, right? The director of Z. The movie we're doing next, called Superhost, is Brandon's third film. So we're jumping into production on that. I'm in his house right now. This is the director of Z's house. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. And Noah, where are you heading off to after this project?
Well, I'm staying home as of now. I'm not heading off anywhere. I'm not sure completely yet. I'm just kind of working on like some little things, and hopefully something comes up.
Great. And are we going to see Lankyboy doing a project together again?
Yeah, hopefully we can get another little indie out. That'd be great. We've always kind of imagined doing a sequel to this.
Yeah. We have some ideas. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, hey, thank you very much, gentlemen. I really appreciate it.